Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're embarking on an incredible journey back in time, to an era of breathtaking ambition, fierce competition, and a dream that united the world, the race to the moon. This isn't just a story about rockets and astronauts. It's a story about human potential and what we can achieve when we dare to look up at the stars and say, "We're coming." It all started in the late 1950s and early 1960s, a period we now call the space age. The world was divided by the Cold War, a tense standoff between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. This rivalry wasn't just fought with politics and spies. It extended into the vast, uncharted territory of outer space. Every launch, every orbit, was a statement of technological and ideological superiority. The starting pistol for this epic race was fired on October 4, 1957. On that day, the Soviet Union shocked the world by launching Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite to orbit the Earth. This tiny beeping sphere, no bigger than a beach ball, sent a clear message. The USSR had taken the lead. The United States, caught off guard, felt a new sense of urgency. The Sputnik crisis spurred the creation of NASA in 1958 and ignited a national commitment to catch up and surpass their rivals. The Soviets continued to rack up impressive firsts. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human to journey into space, completing a full orbit of our planet. His famous words, "Poyakali," "Let's go," echoed around the globe. For the Americans, this was another wake-up call. The pressure was mounting. It was in this climate of intense competition that President John F. Kennedy stood before Congress on May 25, 1961, and made one of the most audacious declarations in history. He proposed that the United States should commit itself to achieving the goal, before the decade was out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. Think about that for a moment. At the time, the U.S. had only managed a 15-minute suborbital flight. Landing on the moon, 250,000 miles away, seemed like pure science fiction. But Kennedy's speech was more than just a challenge. It was a vision. It galvanized a nation, inspiring hundreds of thousands of scientists, engineers, technicians, and factory workers to pour their hearts and minds into a single monumental goal. This was the birth of the Apollo program. The path to the moon was far from smooth. It was paved with incredible risks and heartbreaking setbacks. The early missions, Mercury and Gemini, were crucial stepping stones. The Gemini program, in particular, was where American astronauts learned the essential skills for a lunar mission: long-duration spaceflight, orbital maneuvering, and most critically, rendezvous and docking, the delicate cosmic dance of two spacecraft meeting and connecting in the void. They also performed the first American spacewalks, venturing outside the safety of their capsule. But tragedy struck on January 27, 1967. During a routine launch rehearsal for what was supposed to be the first Apollo mission, a fire broke out in the command module. Astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee were trapped inside. The Apollo 1 fire was a devastating blow, a stark reminder of the immense dangers involved. The program was halted, and for a moment, it seemed the dream might die with them. However, from the ashes of this tragedy rose a renewed sense of purpose. NASA undertook a complete redesign of the command module, making it safer and more reliable. The sacrifice of the Apollo 1 crew was not in vain. Their loss led to critical improvements that would protect future crews. The program returned to flight with a vengeance, more determined than ever. The missions that followed were a rapid-fire series of incredible achievements. Apollo 7 tested the redesigned command module in Earth orbit. Then came Apollo 8 in December 1968, a mission of breathtaking boldness. For the first time in history, humans left Earth's orbit and traveled to the moon. The crew, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders, became the first people to witness an Earthrise, to see our entire planet as a fragile, blue and white marble suspended in the blackness of space. Their Christmas Eve broadcast from lunar orbit, where they read from the book of Genesis, captivated a global audience and offered a moment of unity in a divided world. Apollo 9 tested the lunar module, the spidery-looking craft that would actually land on the moon, in the safety of Earth orbit. Apollo 10 was the full dress rehearsal, flying all the way to the moon, separating the lunar module, and descending to within just 9 miles of the lunar surface before returning to the command module. Everything was ready. The stage was set for the final act, and then came July 1969. The world held its breath. On July 16th, a monstrous Saturn V rocket, the most powerful machine ever built, thundered to life at the Kennedy Space Center, carrying 3 men, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. Their destination, a place called the Sea of Tranquility on the surface of the moon. 4 days later, on July 20th, Armstrong and Aldrin were in the lunar module, the Eagle. Michael Collins remained in orbit aboard the command module, Columbia, becoming for a time the most solitary human in existence. The descent was nerve-wracking. Alarms blared in the cockpit as the landing computer became overloaded. With fuel running dangerously low, Neil Armstrong took manual control, skillfully guiding the Eagle past a field of boulders to a safe landing spot. Then, the words that echoed through history were transmitted back to Mission Control in Houston. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. A wave of relief and jubilation swept across the control room and, indeed, the world. A few hours later, Neil Armstrong descended the ladder. As he placed his foot onto the powdery lunar soil, he uttered the immortal words that would define a generation and inspire countless more. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. For the first time, human beings were standing on another celestial body. Buzz Aldrin soon joined him, describing the scene with a perfect phrase: magnificent desolation. They planted the American flag, collected rock samples, set up scientific experiments, and bounced around in the low lunar gravity. For over 2 hours they explored this new world, while an estimated 650 million people, the largest television audience in history at that time, watched in awe. They had done it. Against all odds, in less than a decade, Kennedy's audacious challenge had been met. The safe return of the Apollo 11 crew was a moment of global celebration. The space race in its purest form was over. The United States had won the race to the moon. But the legacy of Apollo is so much more than a victory in a Cold War competition. It was a triumph of human ingenuity, teamwork, and sheer willpower. It pushed the boundaries of science and technology, leading to countless innovations that we still use today, from medical imaging and cordless tools to GPS and freeze-dried food. More than that, Apollo changed our perspective of ourselves and our place in the cosmos. That image of the Earth rising over the lunar horizon reminded us that we all share one beautiful, fragile planet. It was a powerful symbol of unity and a call to cherish our home. The journey to the moon was not just about reaching a destination. It was about the journey itself, about daring to dream big, working together to overcome impossible challenges, and expanding the horizons of what it means to be human. It proved that when we are united by a common purpose, there is truly no limit to what we can achieve. Thank you so much for joining me on this look back at one of humanity's greatest adventures. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into history, science, and the human spirit. Let me know in the comments what part of the Apollo story fascinates you the most. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.